I think it's made a tremendous difference in many people's lives.
It has been an inspiration to me.
Working on this project, I realized, and making history, that it's really honoring to take part in this project.
I envision the day when we have young sailors from different parts of the country, different parts of the world who sail on board the Amistad, not only learning the history, but using this education and going back into the communities and becoming role models themselves.
God's hand is all over this.
This is a multiracial, multicultural story of a dream becoming a reality. It is a testament of the power of unity, faith, and freedom. This contemporary story begins with a story from history. The original Amistad event riveted the nation and launched an enduring movement of racial and social justice.
Tell them about the Amistad. Tell them about 53 Mende captives who came to this country against their own will. Tell them about Singbe Pa, whose valiant struggle for the freedom of himself and his people brought us to a place of recognition of the wrongness of the injustice of slavery in this land.
In 1839, a Portuguese slave ship embarks from the west coast of Africa. The dreaded Middle Passage to Havana begins. In Cuba, the captives are sold illegally in Havana's Embarcadero and placed on the Spanish cargo ship La Amistad for the brief voyage to Puerto Príncipe. The captives are told they'd be killed for food. Believing this to be true, a young Mende leader, Singbe Pa, realizes that they must act decisively in order to survive. The Africans rebel and take command of the ship, ordering the Spanish crew to sail east, back towards Africa. But by night, the Spaniards sail west, moving closer, ever closer to the American coast. On August 26, 1839, a U.S. Coast Guard ship encounters the Amistad off Long Island's Montauk Point. Singbe and his companions are arrested, and the ship is towed to New London, Connecticut. Once again, the Mendes are in chains. But New England Congregationalists, forebears of today's United Church of Christ, join forces with other abolitionists to defend the captives in their fight for self-determination, echoing Singbe's stirring defense, "All we want is make us free." The Amistad Committee is formed within a week of the ship's capture. Dr. Josiah Willard Gibbs, a linguist and professor of Hebrew from Yale, goes up and down the docks of New York, finds a Mende native who is fluent in the captive's language, and brings him back to New Haven, where the trial is held. The case moves through federal courts and finally to the U.S. Supreme Court. The committee enlists former President John Quincy Adams to join in the defense of the Mende captives. Nearly 2 years of legal struggle end when the Supreme Court rules in favor of the Africans, setting them free for good. The Amistad Committee raises funds to enable the Mendes to return home to Africa, but the movement is just beginning. 5 years later, the Amistad Committee joins with other multiracial and like-minded groups to form the American Missionary Association, the first abolitionist mission society in the United States. Education is a priority. More than 500 schools are established for recently freed slaves and other disenfranchised persons. Colleges and universities are chartered, nurturing generations of African American leaders. Ministry among Chinese immigrants, Puerto Rican people, poor Appalachian whites, Native Americans, and others anticipates the rich cultural mosaic that is now the reality in American society. The struggle for fair labor practices, quality education, accessible health care, justice for Native Hawaiians, gay and lesbian persons, and newly settled racial and ethnic groups in this country continues into the 21st century. The roots of these efforts can be traced back to that singular story.
It's a story about those who, victimized by broken international laws for the sake of money, said no to an evil. And that no has ricocheted and echoed across our time.
Black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, thank God Almighty.
The Amistad story is very important to the UCC because it is a story of faith. Sometimes people talk about why do we do the things that we do in the UCC around justice? Why do we do the justice work? We do it because we're called to by our faith. And that story is one of the most important stories of our faith that we have.
A new ship bearing this historic name is again capturing the nation's imagination. What began in the 1970s as a dream of Amistad America founder Warren Marr has already touched people from all walks of life, starting with its design and construction and continuing in its mission as a floating classroom, visiting ports of call throughout the Americas and beyond.
To be the captain of the Amistad is a great honor. It's a culmination for me of a long sailing career that's been devoted mostly to educational adventures. And this, to me, is the ultimate educational adventure because I get an opportunity to be able to tell a story of human rights. Most people assume that Amistad was a slave ship, therefore it's a slave story. No, it's a cargo vessel that happened to be carrying slaves. Not even real slaves, captives. And I get to go and tell that story, the correct story, not the film version of the story, but the correct story of what the Amistad incident was all about and its impact on us today.
This experience has impacted me spiritually as a man of faith in that it has brought me closer to my feelings about my faith and my belief that Jesus' example of caring and sharing with one another is exemplified not only in 1839 but now.
Well, for me, overseeing this project has really been a great honor. The responsibility of maintaining the integrity of the project, not only the physical construction but the symbolism and the more important spiritual nature of the vessel has really been tremendously rewarding. It's hard to describe that sense of accomplishment that I personally am feeling looking at the vessel, working with the crew, seeing their enthusiasm for the project grow, the extra attention they give, the extra hours they're willing to put in. It has reached our highest expectation in terms of how it's touched the people involved.
I started off working on the masts. I was one of the 3 sawyers sawing the masts. And from there I went on to the sawmill and I spent about a month working on there. And then the rest of my time I spent in the rigging loft, constructing the rigging for the ship.
While I was here, I learned how to scrape tar off the deck, which is the pitch. And I helped with the building of Margrum, which is going to be the ship's boat, the dinghy, and I had to use a lot of math in that.
I think the memories that I'll take with me are all the time that I spent working here, and the reminder would be the ship itself, of seeing the ship every day. I'll always know that that's something that I took part in.
It feels good to be a part of history, especially me being a 16-year-old female. It's not something you see every day happening, kids working on a project like Amistad.
I've been in boating for at least half my life, and specifically wooden boats. So anything that has anything to do with wooden boats, I'm interested in. I coordinate the weekend volunteers who work on the Amistad project, and those folks who have some skills, I would provide work for them where they could exercise their skills, and other people with no skills, we do like support work.
It's almost as though all the right people from every walk of life gravitate to it for all the right reasons because they know the project needs them somehow. So we have had, you know, everybody's been inspiring each other.
The energy that people feel Staff, volunteers, visitors, even the media are excited about this. It's genuine. It's a chance to try to tell the truth.
The Amistad Freedom Schooner was constructed at Mystic Seaport in Connecticut. It is a port with a history of building ships well and building them to last.
There was a special moment when all of the 60 souls moved the keel of purple heartwood into place. I like to call it the heart of the vessel. So there was something that kind of bound everyone together at that one point, and recognizing that we were putting something into place that was a gift to the future.
P2. The master builder.
This particular recreation, this recreation of the vessel is special in itself because of the diversity of the people that went to make it, the skills and crafts, the personal input of people in it. I think a vessel has a soul that is a culmination of all the people that work on it and their attitude about it. It's not something that was made in a factory to be turned out for a price. This is a very personal expression of so many people's abilities, their desire, their need to be a part of something bigger than themselves.
We've had a tremendous effort on the part of people from many different backgrounds, people coming from as far away as Maryland to volunteer on weekends, people from New Haven driving all this way in adverse weather conditions sometimes to participate in the construction.
The emotional peak of the shipbuilding process came at a traditional launching ceremony, Amistad style.
This is a joyous occasion. This vessel is about joy, of freedom. This is a celebration. It's a celebration of freedom, celebration of rights, celebration of humanity. It should be loud. It should be raucous. It should be rhythmic. It's a mighty, mighty day. It's a mighty day.
The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Bless now our assembly, especially those whose skill built this ship, whose vision inspired this project, whose gifts made it possible. And gather about us today the great cloud of witnesses, the enslaved, the courageous, the determined, to remind us, to remind us, to remind us.
It is the future into which we release the Amistad Freedom Schooner. For the future is the final judge of what we have learned from the history.
Long live the Amistad.
The original Amistad attracted people of faith and profoundly affected them. So has the new Amistad.
The United Church of Christ and its involvement has been a great partner in making sure that we don't forget the importance of faith in all the work that we do, and that this is not just about retelling history, but it's about being mindful of our obligation to our Christian teachings and to the Lord. So I've been very pleased and excited about that notion. And I hope that we continue to spread those messages and incorporate that in the work that we do.
Two churches, among others, in what is now the Connecticut Conference of the United Church of Christ, played a major role in the original Amistad event. One is an African-American church, the Dixwell Avenue Congregational United Church of Christ in New Haven.
The founder of this church, Simeon Jocelyn, was an original member of the Amistad Committee of 1839. So I have many members who have been actively involved in keeping the Amistad alive and keeping the story alive and the contributions alive. So it has moved our congregation to another level.
The UCC really takes a lot of pride in being a part of the Amistad incident, and so especially here at my church, we have a lot of things, a lot of programs dealing with the Amistad. We have a lot of services dedicated to the Amistad.
And this year, I am working on the home port celebration.
Now I'm a board of director member of the Amistad.
I'm very proud to say that I am the chair of the 4-day home port arrival celebration here in New Haven.
I see history past, history present, and history future. That we have an opportunity to teach people that race doesn't matter, your sex doesn't matter. What matters is you're a human being. You're a child of God.
After the captives were freed, the First Church of Christ Congregational of Farmington, a European-American congregation, took in the captives and provided for them until the funds were raised to send them home.
I firmly believe if we know the story, then we can tell the story. And if we can tell the story, we can live the story. And if we can live the story, we can make a difference in this world.
As I sat listening to the hymn, I have to confess, Ned, I couldn't sing your hymn this morning because the tears were running down my face and my throat was so choked. As I thought of those people, my brothers and my sisters, my ancestors, who were welcomed here when they could be welcomed nowhere else.
It was this church that spearheaded the fact that these are human beings. We need to find some way for them to go back home. And they did not only give them money, clothing, they fed them at the Barney House, one of the homes here in Farmington. They educated them. By the time Simba Pierre and the rest of the slaves that were freed returned home, most of them could read and write. And I'm very grateful to the Congregational Church of Farmington.
Not only the Mendi people were changed in this experience, church members were changed in this experience. And it has been a blessing to me when we come upon hard times today, and there are those who would prefer calmer waters and would be much happier if we didn't address the issue. It is wonderful today that I can say we have a precedent that we cannot deny and remain ourselves.
The new Amistad sails into a world of racial and social issues that are as urgent as ever. Its message that unity, peace, and cooperation require justice and equality is as relevant now as in 1839.
Amidst all the racial tension in this country, this is an opportunity to use the Amistad, not only to talk about the history in this country, but to use the Amistad as a vehicle and a catalyst for conversations that move that notion of race and diversity to a more positive light, so that we see each other as having more commonalities than we do differences.
I hope people get it. I hope people listen long enough to hear their part of it.
Human beings, being who we are, need constantly to be reminded about the nature of human rights and the nature of freedom and the importance of it, and the importance of friendship, the importance of all of the lessons that the Amistad brings, the importance of real leadership, of dignity.
I hope that it reaches people who don't know about it, first of all, and I hope that it reaches people who don't feel that it's a really important piece of history. And I hope that they see it as a vital part of American history, not just African American history.
My hope for the future of Amistad is that she is well received by the general public when she visits ports, and that she really does inspire meaningful dialogue about issues of racism and intolerance that really need to be addressed in our nation.
Sembe Pia once said all of his ancestors existed for that moment in time when he was there. And so it's really important to understand who he was and who the people were on that boat and who the people were who worked with them. And so I would just say to everyone, go see it for yourself. Go and tell the story to other people.